Hey everyone, welcome to I call it Little Friday. That's when we do our shows. We do it on Thursday, but I call it Little Friday so that it's like a practice run for Friday so that we don't get Friday wrong. But I'm Val and this is Ty. I have a special guest, Josh Steadman today, and we're Multiplane Podcast. How are you guys doing?
Good. Really good.
Awesome. Weather's picking up.
Oh my gosh, it's been like 80 degrees. It's been really, really warm. So I hope everybody, it's happy Memorial Weekend. Go out and, do whatever you can do. I don't know what we live in Utah. We live in like one of the best states that you can go and hike and go to the mountains and still do all the staycation stuff. But I'm so excited today. And I think, Ty, this might be one of your favorite shows other than when we did the Tron show, because we are talking about prop culture today on Disney Plus. We have Josh, who's an Imagineer who worked at Shanghai, which is also one of the places you really want to go because of all of the cool things they have. So we are going to get some insight into the Disney world of Imagineering today, and we're going to talk about prop culture. And I have to tell you, so I started watching prop culture, and if you can get through 2 episodes in a row without crying, I don't know where you have come from, and it's not like sad tears. It's just like the one I watched when they do Mary Poppins and they're showing like were you tearing up? I was just like, you didn't cry for Mary Poppins.
No, I didn't cry for Mary Poppins.
I cried. There's something about Disney and the magic that Disney creates and those memories that you build through the movies and through the music and through the characters, that when you see all of these different props and all of these different things from the movies, I just get teary. It's kind of like when you walk into Disneyland and it's like the early morning, you're there for the magic hour, right? And you hear your favorite song come on, they just sprayed off the sidewalk, and you just feel great. And you get like a little tear, like, I'm in the right place. I love it here. That's what prop culture makes me feel, like I'm in the right place, right?
Yep.
It's a good feeling. It's true.
I'm sorry, Josh, I didn't cry for Mary Poppins. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm sure you cried all the way through Magic. I'm sure you cried all the way through Haunted Mansion, or whichever one you watched. Which one was your favorite out of the episodes, Ty?
It's neck and neck with episode number 2, Tron, which out of all the vast Disney things, and we've talked about how underrated Tron is, but Tron's getting some attention from Disney Plus, and I'm digging it.
Tron's awesome.
Thank you, Josh.
No, Tron is great.
Hey!
I'm just kidding, Val. I know. But anyways, Tron, and then episode number 3, Nightmare Before Christmas. Those are neck and neck.
I haven't watched it yet, so don't divulge too much. I'm waiting on that one for sure. Meaning I need to watch it.
The one thing that I love that you're going to love, Josh, I think, about Nightmare Before Christmas, because Josh, you have really, and we're going to get into some of the details that you put into your work, but the Nightmare Before Christmas one really shows the detail about how they made that movie, into intricate detail of all the different characters and movements and how many things they actually had to create for that movie to be made.
So I have a cool connection to that film. If you don't mind me just telling a really quick story.
Go for it.
My senior thesis in graduate school was Oklahoma and the musical. And it's not my most favorite musical in the world, I'll be completely honest, but it was fun to design. And I was going to UC Davis, and my professor, Tom Munn and John Iacovelli, who have both worked extensively in film and television and worked in the Bay Area, said, we've got this little old set painter. She's like pushing 85. And she used to work at this studio right down in Oakland. I'm all, bro, okay, cool. So she came up to UC Davis and showed me her portfolio of Polaroids. I get to the second page, and it was all of Nightmare Before Christmas. And I went, what? Wait a minute. You painted the set? She goes, yeah, I was the lead set painter for all of it. I worked with Tim. I worked with all those guys. I went, you've got to be kidding me. And so she painted my set. She painted the cyclorama, the drop. She painted all the buildings and Eller's house. So I worked with the actual set painter. I don't even know I would say, I hope She's still alive. She's probably not. This is 10, 11 years ago. So talk about how cool is that? The woman that painted that set painted my set for Oklahoma at UC Davis. So there's my small connection.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And the thing that made that episode kind of really hit home for me was I got to see a similar film prop. If you guys have ever seen Frankenweenie.
Oh, it's great.
I love Frankenweenie.
Yeah, so there was a exhibition, I think, at DCA.
Yeah.
See,
in the
Josh
animation pavilion. Yeah.
Yep, so in the animation building.
They premiered that film there, and I was there the day they were showing it. Sorry, I'm totally like taking.
No. Keep going. That's
why you're here, man.
Martin Landau, and who else was with him? Who's Little Ned in Three Amigos? My mind just went blank.
Oh, I just did that on my other podcast. Little Ned is Short.
Martin Short.
Martin Short. Yeah.
And Martin Landau were right in front of me walking down the Hollywood backlot in DCA, and I aggressively, which is not like me, when I see someone that I admire, I'm not that guy that goes and gets a picture taken, but I went up to them both, and now Martin Landau's passed, and I shook their hands. I was like, dude, you're Bela Lugosi and Ed Wood. You know what I mean? I couldn't help but say that.
Yeah.
Right? Martin Landau and Martin Short, Little Ned. I mean, come on, it was awesome. But they were there for that premiere, and I was actually hanging out to meet Tim, and I never met him. So
and that's so. I was gonna say the week that my family, we were in DCA and seeing that was the same week that it premiered, and we went and seen it at the theater right there in downtown Disney as well. So that's why the Nightmare Before Christmas episode hit real deep. I'm like, I've got to see stuff like this in person. So
it's awesome. No, I agree.
So Josh, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and your background,
Sure.
and then we'll kind of jump into more.
How much you want to know? There's lots to tell.
I mean, give us all the juicy stuff. The cool thing is we've got 45 minutes. So if you have 45 minutes, then
well, I was that awkward kid. I can tell lots of stories. But I was an awkward kid that was a huge Disney fan growing up. Wanted to be an Imagineer since I was really little. When most people didn't know what that even was, I'd say, I want to be an Imagineer. And then we'd be like, look at you, so strange. Of course, I grew up in Idaho, which if you're not playing football or planting potatoes, there's no language there, right? So I was the odd kid out. I'm still kind of the odd kid out. I always am. But always wanting to get at Disney and designing and studying all the books. When the very first Imagineering volume came out, I bought it. I was in high school. I think it came out in 93 or 94, the big book. And it's been since republished, but I studied it like just all the time, going to Disneyland, growing up. And then years later, I had been accepted to go to Art Center after going to art school. I could not afford Art Center. And so another school that I actually had applied to offered me a scholarship. And they said, come here and you can, at BYU in Provo, Utah, you can write the curriculum. We'll endorse you to write the curriculum in theme park design. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I was making stuff up and making it up based on what I knew, which is not a lot, but I could draw. And I knew there was a certain process, at least I thought, in Imagineering, just by being a total geek and fanboy. Anyways, I wrote this kind of pseudo program, became the first to graduate in entertainment design from that school. And then, long story short, September 11th had happened. No one was hiring artists at the time. And Disney was kind of winding down. They'd opened TDS and they'd opened DCA. And so 2007 was coming, which the whole market crashed. Real estate became a whole thing, if you guys remember that time. And I was teaching high school art, and I was miserable. I'm like, this is not my dream. This isn't what I want to do. And I was in Murray, Utah, and showing kids how to be an animator or how to design theme parks and all these things. And one day I was just like, I can't do this. I gotta be in LA. And I got to be pursuing my dream. There's another story too, in that me and my good friend Brian Crosby and my brother Luke and my friend Katie, had submitted a ride design to a contest that Disney has every year called Walt Disney Imaginations, and it was based off my favorite film. When Disney Plus does the episode on the Rocketeer, I'm there, man, with popcorn. That's my favorite film.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take note.
Maybe we should have you back just specifically to talk about the Rocketeer. Okay.
My movie, because and not to digress, but to reflect a little bit. I was 12 when I saw that movie. People have Star Wars, they have Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's all these movies that are huge influences for me as a designer because they're done so well, right? From our generation. And my mom took me to go see that movie, and I was this bully little geeky kid. And that film made sense to me. Like, it was at that moment watching that movie in 1991 where I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm either going to design a rocket pack, going to work in a movie, working in film, or I'm going to design theme parks. And it pretty much solidified who I was going to be and who I am now. So, coincidentally, I actually have movie props now from that film.
Cool.
Yeah, my sister-in-law Jeanette, her mom is a hairdresser and worked on that film. She actually did all their hair, all the actors on that movie. I mean, that's like
really good hair. That was really good hair in that movie.
Shout out to Charlene, old roommate, as I call her. She's awesome. She did all the hair on that show. So it's like now as an adult, I've had all these weird moments where that influence has coalesced, has come together, I guess. And anyways, back to your original question. I ended up selling everything I had and packed up my beater car and drove to LA. And with like $300, I think I had $300 in my pocket and, enough for a couple tanks of gas. I had reached out to some famous ex-Imagineers and designers, the Kirks, and another guy named Don Carson who had referred me to the Kirks, and then they referred me to a company called Thinkwell, which was opening. I mean, they were a brand new company, and so I ended up pounding the pavement, showing my portfolio, doing it really the hard way, living out of my car and eating Cheetos and showering at the 24-hour fitness. I'm not kidding.
This is awesome, though. You just decided you needed to do this, which is very cool.
Well, I'm kind of, when I get my mind to something, I'm very stubborn. I make it happen. And it's funny because now I don't think I'd take any of it back. As hard as it was and as hungry as I was, young people email me all the time. How do I do that? How do I become an Imagineer? How do I design props for shows, right? Or how do I work in TV? And I say, you have to want it so bad that nothing's going to stop you. And I would say that, like, this is an old reference, but Jim Carrey has this story where he wrote himself a check and he's talked about it in interviews and he put it in his head.
Yeah.
That stuff is true and it's real, because if you want it that bad, you can get anything you want. If you want to be the famous actor, but it takes time. You don't just skip forward and hit fast forward and get there. It takes work. Mm-hmm. And I was, by the way, for the record, I had no clue what it was going to take me to be an Imagineer. And it wasn't until actually telling that story about designing Oklahoma and working with the original set painter A Night Before Christmas. And I had given up the dream. I let it go. I said, I'm putting this on the Viking ship. I'm going to light arrows and shoot it. I'm going to let that idea and that dream go. And then one thing led to another. I ended up designing and working in art departments for television shows. I worked on Lincoln Heights, which was an ABC family show. It was like an afternoon soap drama. Worked with Chadwick Boseman, who was on that show, who's now Black Panther. I used to eat craft services with that guy. Not that he would remember who I am, but and then I worked on Wipeout as a production designer / illustrator, and then got a call from the people that were working with Steven Soderbergh to design the movie premiere for Contagion, and which is funny now that we're all living.
We're all living in it.
Which has had its like rebirth, resurgence, right? So I designed that movie premiere in New York, the Lincoln Center. I never even went to the premiere. I just got the drawings. They gave me the drafting plates for what that place looked like, and I laid it all out and stuff like that. And then one day, talk about Tron, a friend of mine named Nina Ravon, who worked at Disney for many, many years as a legendary Imagineer. She worked with Herb Ryman and all those guys. She actually worked on Tron. That was one of her first gigs. She animated all the Tron lights and costumes and everything. They did it all on plates. They do that on the film cells. She's like, "Hey, Josh, you gotta call my buddy Bruce and get an interview at Disney." And I'm like, "What? Who's Bruce?" I had no clue who she was talking about. She gives me the secretary's email for Bruce Vaughn, who was the chief creative officer of Walt Disney Imagineering. And Bruce was very kind. He brought me in and I sat down and he goes, "We're building this park in Shanghai. We need talented designers who have a background in TV." And I said, "Okay, well, that's interesting. Why TV?" And by the way, I was like, "I'm not going to get this job. That's not going to happen. Disney's going to they're going to interview me, be totally disinterested and throw me out, right? They're not going to be interested." And Bruce goes, "No, I've got this director, this creative director who needs someone who's worked in TV." And it ended up being for the castle. And so I went in, met with her, met with the production manager. And if you've watched the Imagineering story, there's a whole episode number 6, with Doris Woodward. She was my boss. I ended up reporting directly to Doris and worked with Doris and Michelle Malakoff. And we designed a walkthrough. It was just 3-4 of us, Pam Fisher, the writer. And we came up with an idea. And they needed something interesting. And the rest is history. We laid out a walkthrough. We got approved.
Can I show that walkthrough really quick? I'd love to show that.
For the record, I just want to state, so everyone out in the world can hear this, I was just the beginning of a very big iceberg. So there's an image. Yeah. So it takes, for the record, and I hope I can put this to rest because it's important to me. It takes an effort, like a huge team of people to work on these attractions. Those are the foam core models. But exclusively for a year, it was Doris, myself. Oh, and there's some shirts and pants in case you need to buy something.
I know.
No, this is an article I actually wrote, and I tried to give everyone I worked with credit that I had the opportunity to work with on that attraction, not because of any other reason than I worked with all these people. And there's some talented people. And the thing is, with the Disney company, there's like a village of people that touch these things. Oh yeah, don't need one of those. But anyways, but if you look at that picture specifically, that was when it was being built in Shanghai, and that's our color model. We built color models. So the model shop built color models that were elaborate and gorgeous. And it was because I was building this stuff in China, or leading the build, I should say. I wasn't building them. But anyways, I was there and I was making sure all the walls matched the model. And because I don't speak Mandarin Chinese, I tried. I think I knew how to order a cold beer in China. That was it. That's all I knew how to say. Really, that's the only thing I could actually remember. But we pulled out those walls, and they would be able to build based on the painted walls. So go from model to actual facility build. Anyways, so
Steve says this is his dream job. So he's loving what he's seeing here. Thanks,
good.
Steve. If you have any questions for Josh or us, let us know right now because we can pull those up. So how does that happen? I'll go ahead, Ty.
I was just gonna say, if you guys have never at least gone on YouTube and watched things for this, like I've been doing a little bit of watching, and this is a super interactive castle. Like you guys really put some serious effort into this.
So keep in mind, we started, sorry to cut you off.
No, go.
But we started designing the walkthrough in 2012. The effects, so the park opened 2016. The effects and implementation of state-of-the-art special effects we were inventing stuff on the fly had never been done before. And now, if you ride certain attractions and different things, you'll see the effects that we were developing. So there was some groundbreaking stuff that we were doing. And I remember I was in a meeting with a man named John Snoddy, who runs the R&D department over there at Walt Disney Imagineering. And he goes, Josh, what kind of effects do you want in this walkthrough? If you had to pick, give me a list. I said, dude, a cauldron. He's like, that's interesting. I don't think we've ever put a cauldron in any of our attractions. And there's a cauldron in every animated princess film. There's a witch and a cauldron. And I said, yeah, man, if you could like stick your hands in it. So that was the beginning of a conversation of a giant state-of-the-art, amazing cauldron that we rotoscope your hands and your arms with. And it's incredible. And it blows smoke. And that cauldron alone, I bet there were 100 people working on R&D, effects, design on that thing, that prop. Talk about props. So the other thing I need to state, I'm not a prop designer, but I have worked in TV and I appreciate people who design props. Seeing how this is kind of the episode, right? But there are people who are out there, especially at Disney and Universal, and that's their job. Their job is to design state-of-the-art, effects-driven props and things that are incredible. And the amount of work that goes into it is unbelievable.
And that's what
I think with the job that
go for it, Val.
The job that you have, I think the job that you have, Josh, is that because you have to come up with ideas that are based on Disney stories, there's probably a lot of research that you have to do. And the fact that these people that created props for the movies and created so many things for you to reference, and all of the effort that went into those really helps you with your job, right? Because you have to have something to pull your ideas from. And that's exactly why prop culture is so great, because like, I think there's an episode on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Narnia, the movie Narnia. And they're looking at the clothes. It's just one sweater that one of the boys was wearing. And the person that created that sweater even put something that looked like it had been fixed, like it was a hand-me-down and it had been fixed before, and it has little wear marks on it. We don't really notice those as an audience when we're watching a movie with all this stuff, but they put all of the details in there with all of these different things. And then you, as a creator, as an Imagineer, can take all of those details and create what you've created in Shanghai.
Yeah. Well, so you brought something up really interesting, and that is in theater, because my background is as a set designer. So I've designed for theater. And that journey I was telling you about of leaving Utah and going to California and hustling at hardcore, and then ending up in graduate school and studying set design, there's things you learn, like the history of a sweater. What's the story behind it, right? Everything has a story. Every bit of clothing on set or on stage or in a film, being on set anyways, it should look like it's been there, right? It's like what George Lucas was trying to do with Star Wars, the original Star Wars in 1977. That now you say Star Wars, you're like, which episode, right? But use universe stuff. Every bit of technology gets trashed, gets used, gets torn, and gets worn. And it's interesting. It gives something history. But something you brought up that's really interesting is every designer I know, every artist that really cares about their craft, studies an enormous amount of and does enormous amounts of research to understand what the final product should be like. So I just did Sweeney Todd a year ago at Utah Valley University with a Broadway director and Broadway cast, and I did a lot of research on how the set should reflect the story that Sondheim wrote, and how there's certain lines. It's no different. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, you read a script, there's things that are not in the script as an artist or designer is supposed to pull apart and go, okay, that's really interesting information. How can that be conveyed in a film or on screen or on set or on a stage? Because then someone like me or like you guys who's sitting there going, man, like Frankenweenie, right? Well, Frankenweenie was an old film that Tim Burton was working on, I think, way back when he was at Cal Arts.
Way back.
It
Yeah,
was
a long time ago.
film, right? So, but
Yeah.
what was he was doing Frankenstein with his pet dog, and I mean Shelley Duvall's in the original film. It's freaking awesome. So there's just history, and when you do your research, if your research is good, your design output is going to be good. You're only as good as your research. So this is one thing I've taken away from that show, is like Kevin Kidney was talking about that snow globe. I'm only referring to the first episode. It's the only one I've watched. I'm sorry. But he pulled.
He's talking about prop culture.
Yep.
Yeah, and he did all the historical research on where did it start? Where did this prop end up going? The real prop, right? And to duplicate it for the new Mary Poppins film. And it's a lot of work. Artists and designers put in a ton of work and research to get what ends up on stage. We were talking about Logan Long, and I know Logan. I worked with Logan. He'd do a ton of research to make sure the characters he designed looked like something from something else. That's what good designers do. They pull pieces from all over, put it together, so the end product looks killer. And it's got to look amazing when it shows up on film or in a theme park, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, and I'm the stickler for details like that. And that's the same thing. Yeah, when I'm creating props for my characters that I do, same thing. I will look through especially literature and books. If I'm referencing something that's from like classic literature, I get every piece of anything I can read, watch, study before I put out a final look on something.
Well, it's like preparing a good meal, right? Yeah. I mean, it's maybe not the best analogy, but
you don't even know how
good
it is. Like, I'm a cook as well, so no, it is.
Well, have you guys ever seen the movie Chef? John Favreau.
It's like one in my top 5 favorite movies.
I
love this movie so much.
I love that movie because it shows he did a really good job of portraying what a person who's cooking or who's preparing and cares about his craft, what they go through. By the way, everyone who's an artist or designer has worked for the Dustin Hoffman style character that's in that film, who micromanages, who sucks a little bit of the creative life out of you. And you have to find other ways to like be excited about what you're doing, to present it the right way so you don't freak out in the restaurant and lose your job, right? I'm using that as a reference.
Yeah. It's such a great, if you haven't seen that movie, you need to see it. It has John Favreau, who is one of our favorites here on the show because he's a big part of the Disney world right now. He's a big part of the Disney universe. Yeah, he gets it. But he doesn't star in a lot of movies. And so this is one he actually stars in. He wrote it and directed it. And it's funny because he also has the show that's like, he's working with the chef that actually taught him how to cook on the show. They have their own show now that you can watch. And it's very interesting to see what they've taught, what he's taught him. So you need to see that. It is streaming, I believe, but I own it. So it's a good one. But let's jump into prop. Let's jump into prop culture really quick. Ty, I did talk about one of the episodes that I liked. You wanted to talk about maybe one of the episodes that you liked and what you liked about it. Do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, sure. So we already touched on Nightmare Before Christmas, but of course the other episode that meant a lot to me was Tron. And this is one that I did, tear up on a little bit as I was watching it. I think the part that really got me was seeing Steve. So when they went and visited Steve and seen some of the stuff that he had left over from the show, when you first see his face when they're kind of talking about Tron, and this might just be me going off on this, but I almost feel like he has this kind of look of defeat in his eye.
Why?
Because Tron was not a big, it was contending against Star Wars. It was a box office bust.
But it was bigger later. It was bigger later.
And that's what Nightmare Before Christmas was a flop when it opened, guys.
That too.
And so was
and now it has its own right.
They're all cult films that build up because they're great stories and they're visually so awesome that you go back and you go, Why didn't this get the attention it deserved? There's all these reasons, but the craft behind the film and the artists that build those movies, they took time doing it, and the love shows on screen, right? Tron's one of those. Nightmare for Christmas, I saw it 3 times. I was the only one in the audience when I was in high school. When it came,
I was a child, but that's
because you're a baby.
I'm a baby, yeah. Like I said,
baby.
Josh, I would have totally transferred to Murray High School in 2007.
You probably would have hated my class, man, only because I was like, this is designing a character. I was not into teaching at the time, and now
sophomore year.
Yeah.
Ty, what I loved about the episode with Tron is because I like to see how an artist takes the idea, and Josh, like you have created here, you've got these sketches. So you have an idea in your head, you've got to sketch it out, you've got to kind of build some things to see. And with the Tron costume, they have it all like in paper form, like figured out before they actually create it, because it's so intricate. And like you said, Josh, it's kind of like our Multiplane podcast, the way that they layer the cells to create, all of the intricate designs. I loved seeing that on the Tron episode. Was just like, I'm taking it from here, to there.
One thing I love, and I think it runs in my family because my brother likes the process too, and he teaches courses and shows the process. And now I talk a lot and I show a lot process. The type of work I do is it's usually pretty early. When someone hires me, it's because I've got concept. Number one, I've got great ideas. I think I do.
You get paid for that, right? You've got to know that.
Yeah, but I can sketch it out, and I'm not the best illustrator out there, but I'm a great set designer. So I'm bragging. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be doing that. But
do it.
I own what I'm good at. I can own what I'm really not good at too. So we can talk about that as well. But no, it's being able to output an idea on paper or on your computer or whatever, and then do it 80 times and go, okay, this has this is good. Let's pull and extrapolate some of that. Let's add it to this. It's like cooking. It's like adding some of this, adding some of that. So at the very end, well, not at the end, because what I do is at the very beginning, and then I also do what's at the very end, which is infield art direction. There are people that then take the early concept stuff that I put together in the storyboarding and the sketches and all the ideation, as you would say, and then they formulate it. They're the ones that kind of cook it, right? And they do all the drafting sheets and the drafting plates. And so, like I said, teams of designers with the Disney company or on a film like Tron, where there's all these people that are animators, there's costume designers, the amount I think what I'd like to emphasize, it takes a village to build these things. It takes a huge group of very dedicated artists to make things happen for us to enjoy them. I had a colleague once tell me that he thought, using Disneyland as an example, that Disneyland is like a beautiful little music box where all the little wheels and turns and pieces and sprockets come together and play this beautiful little melody, because it's so hodgepodge is not the right term. It's carefully designed in a very minute space, which now you've got Disney World, which is the size of Rhode Island. You got Shanghai Disneyland, which is huge. Tokyo Disney Sea, which is ginormous, and all these other parks where they have the space to build what they wanted, or at least to grow it out in a way that they thought it could be, or what the potentials were. Disneyland didn't have, it was an orange grove, right? In the middle of nowhere.
And marshland. Yeah.
Yeah, marshland, exactly. But what's interesting is how well they thought things through. And how Disney used television to promote its product, and it's just kind of ingenious. And you'd really not be a theme park designer if you didn't look towards that model and go, wow, lightning struck. And it struck a lot because it's so brilliant. But what's so brilliant about it is they were using film techniques to design the park. Like Main Street USA is a perfect example of it, where forced perspective really, that phrase, which was really coined because of that project and because of Main Street USA and the castle, and everything else. It's just fascinating. And
it all started with a carousel in Hyde Park, and they show that in one of the prop culture episodes.
Yeah, totally. And so it's fascinating. If you really dive in and look at it, and then you take it even further back into the history of parks and layout, you find out that Walt's dad worked on the Great White City in Chicago, the World's Fair. What year was that? 1892, whatever. And you study that model, then you see the layout, you understand where Walt and his Imagineers were pulling pieces from Coney Island, a little bit of Knott's influences from Knott's Berry Farm, and all these spaces to make it amazing. Anyway, there's a lot of hats off, respect. Had something, they got an idea and they made it, and it's pretty brilliant. So,
Ty, do you want to? So, let's jump back to Tron really quick because I want to hear what you had to say about the episode. But then, Josh, I kind of want to have you ridden. I want to get to this in a minute. If you've ridden the Tron ride in Shanghai,
I have something.
Okay, so Okay, so go to Ty first. I want you to get your Tron on because I know you're over there itching to get your Tron on about the episode, and then we'll go to the Tron ride, and you guys can have a little nerdy moment.
Well, like I said, so you see and like I said, I felt that Steven almost had this look of defeat in his eye when they first came into it, but then towards the end, you really see him almost getting a little bit more excited as you start seeing the props that he has left over and whatnot, and that's the thing that I can't spoil it for Josh because the biggest part of that episode is the restoration of a prop. I'll just say that.
Well, I can't wait.
But anyways, that was one that I just, Val, you know exactly which one I'm talking about, was the one that as soon as they fixed it, I was just like,
yeah,
can we please get this somewhere in the park to just display or do something?
Yeah. And just like the whole thing about this prop culture is how all of these props from these movies that we love are just dispersed like all over the world. They didn't, at the time when they're making these movies, they weren't thinking we need to preserve these, we need to keep these here. And so he's out there just finding all of these props and trying to get them back, to Disney, and, seeing what all of these people are collecting, and the fact that he had that prop, he found that prop, they could actually restore that prop. It's just the stories behind the props and who has the props and how they've gotten the props is also one of the cool parts of this TV show.
One of the other things was that we see the drawings that were kind of done, the concept art and whatnot. Some of that made it to the sequel. So you see, I'm trying to remember the illustrator's name anyways, shows us a design of what the light cycle riders were supposed to look like. And when they jumped on the light cycle, they wanted to have the head kind of merge with the bike and then become part of the frame, which didn't happen in the original. You just had the panel that comes up. But in Tron Legacy, we actually got to have that. And that's exactly what it's kind of looking like with the roller coaster, which is my number one reason to go to Shanghai, is to just get on that roller coaster. I already said, if we ever did a Shanghai trip, I would go for an entire day on just that ride.
All right. Well, I'll go maybe twice with you, but I want to experience the rest of the park. We're going to do an episode in Shanghai. If it takes us a year to get there, we will do it.
Let me know when you're going. I'll go with you and we'll hang out.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. So Josh, you've ridden the ride.
So I know the team that worked on that attraction, and some very talented people, first of all. Second of all, it's an amazing coaster. So I actually left China in 2015, came back. The park opened in 2016. And the two rides that I watched being built and watched team members in the process of building them and saw the models and everything back at WDI was the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction that's out there in Shanghai, and then Tron. Those are the two that I really wanted, that I couldn't wait for. And both of them are incredible.
Their Pirates is awesome.
The Pirates attraction is unbelievable because they're both unbelievable. So I don't want to segue.
Because Pirates is one of my favorite rides. So what's so different about it?
Oh no,
everything! Oh my gosh!
You just have to go. It's unbelievable because you actually feel like you're in one of the films, and takes all the great P's and Q's from the attraction at Disneyland and then takes all the great moments from the films and becomes its own thing. I remember looking at the storyboards for that attraction back at WDI in the Maple building going, how are they going to do that? It was so cinematic that I just was like, as a theme park designer, I tried to figure out how they were going to do all the multi-levels to that thing. And you just have to go and experience it. There's that. But then the Tron cycles is incredible because number one, you sit in a Tron cycle. So I remember when they unveiled that ride vehicle to the Disney board of directors and stuff, and they had the Daft Punk soundtrack playing. This is way before we even opened the park, and the actual ride vehicle turned. It's in the Imagineering story, but they were pumping the music with lasers and fog and everything. You get to sit in this car that is, well, it's not a car, it's the bike. And then the headpiece comes down over you with binaural audio. So if you know what that means, it's sound that sounds like it's all around you. And then all of a sudden you take off and it's pretty spectacular. They're actually coincidentally opening it in Epcot. You do know that?
Yes, we've talked about that. We talked about that on the show before. He's flipping out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's worth flipping out about because it's an amazing coaster. I took some friends when I was there, and one of the guys I actually worked with on Castle and Gardens of Imagination went with me, and he hadn't been on the coaster. So we were both in this, you're bike to bike, I think. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's 2x2s.
I don't remember. Yeah, okay, very good. But anyways, it takes off, and we both just start screaming. It's just there are great rides. There are great coasters. Then there's coasters where you get off and you feel like you need a new neck. This is not one of them. Like some of the old wooden coasters, stuff like that. The coasters now are just so unbelievable because they're made so well and built, they're crafted so well. That's one of them. Not to mention the dark space that you go into and you see reflections, and it's awesome. It's gonna be great when it opens in the States. It's great in Shanghai. I'm glad that, for the record, I'm glad the park is reopened. I know with all the quarantine, and it's just good that people can go to parks again. You can't go to a park in your home. You can YouTube them, right? You can walk through it. How exciting is that? It's not exciting. Parks are social experience, and they're meant to be. And it's just, you can't ever take that away. It's awesome. They're not replaceable. They aren't. It's a communal social experience, and that's its point, right? To go and have fun with people you love and care about. So
I want to talk a little bit about what you have done. My dogs want me to go play, but they're gonna have to wait a little bit. So this is your website. Can you tell us?
My website's getting updated right now. I have a friend working on it for me. So this is old stuff, but I've done book illustrations. I've done books. I've done, there's pictures of the walkthrough and Gardens of Imaginations on there. I worked intimately, very closely, like I was saying, with Doris Woodward on Fantasia Carousel. We spent a year flying into Hong Kong. We would fly in on a Thursday, leave on a Monday, and take the boat up the Pearl River, the ferry, and we were building our carousel. And so there you see it. Everything in that picture I actually got to work on. I was part of, so I did production design, assistant art direction, and some show design stuff. But and then project-based stuff that I've worked on in the past, a little bit of everything, just a little bit everything, plus throwing your hat in, whatever you want to call it.
So what's this Avengers? What's this?
I worked with a company called Victory Hill, and we were doing Avenger-based project stuff. So I was the art director on Avenger Station Singapore, and these are quick storyboards. When a client comes to you and they're like, I want to storyboard something, can we storyboard this stuff? Can you come up with concepts? They're quick, dashed. Sometimes you have a few, like an hour, to knock some of this stuff out. And then some of my Shanghai portfolio. But like I said, a lot of work, a lot of team-based work, a lot of people working on it with me. So
So Josh, did you have the chance to work on the Ant-Man ride in Shanghai?
Did not. I did not. My friend Brian did. There's a bunch of people I know that worked on that attraction.
Because that's definitely one I know that's one of the big reasons Val would like to go to Shanghai is to get on the Ant-Man ride.
Ant-Man ride is in Hong Kong.
For the record. Is it Hong Kong? I thought it was Shanghai. Yeah. Okay, my bad.
No, it's right next to their Iron Man attraction.
I thought it was Shanghai, but thanks for correcting me on that one.
And I put the links to both. I put the link to your website and to your Imagineering story on our stream. I will also make sure that it's on our podcast. Now, really quick before we kind of wrap up, can we talk about Evermore?
Please do.
I mean, it's right in our backyard.
Yeah, it is.
It's right in our backyard.
So. It opens soon, I think. I'm not really sure when it opens.
It's TBA, or to be announced right now.
Still waiting on restrictions and stuff. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Evermore and, what kind of project that was and the things that you got to do there.
Evermore was, it was a wild ride and a good ride. Meaning I was brought in through my friend Josh Shipley, and knowing Ken Brett Snyder, and Ken's a dear friend, and I met with Ken.
He throws really good Halloween parties, by the way.
That park is really designed with Halloween as a major.
Well, I got to go to one at his house, and he has like a ship in his front yard. He has a pirate ship in his front yard.
Yeah, Ken.
Anyway,
he used to throw giant walkthroughs in his house and Halloween attraction stuff. Well, I'd heard about Evermore through Josh, and then I had met Ken 2 years prior to working at Evermore. Ken and I toured a studio that's in Utah called The Void, and Ken had me put on this backpack, and I'd never experienced VR like I had experienced VR, and this is in 2016, so this is a while ago now, but where you walk through a virtual reality walkthrough, and it blew my mind. It was I've designed quite a few walkthroughs now for both parks and events and different things. And what I experienced was like, what in the world? How did you guys in Utah figure this out? And so Ken showed me a model of something the day he put me through the demo, and it was this big medieval Victorian fantasy park. And he said, how would you like to work on this park with me? And I said, oh my gosh. The model was beautiful, and I said, sure. I mean, who wouldn't want to? In Utah? Of course. So fast forward 2 years later, and I just come back from working on a project in Hong Kong with Cartoon Network, and I emailed Josh, went to lunch with Josh and Ken, something to that extent, and then they brought me in, and Ken goes, we got 6 months to build a park and open it. Are you ready? Come on. That's not possible. We can try. I'll do my best. So I've now worked on 4 parks. One's still yet to open, and it should be opening this year. And Evermore was intense. I had 6 months to not only open the park with my team of show designers and set designers, but also do all the decorations for Halloween, which was lore, as what they call it. And so we had ordered between 6,000 and 8,000 pumpkins. Half were fake and had been carved. We had all our actors carving pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns and fiberglass ones. And then we ordered real pumpkins. And then we had giant pumpkins with a DJ and a goblin on top DJing. And when we opened the park, we had half the park ready to go. But what had to open, what had to be seen, had to be pretty special. And so my team, I feel very fortunate, and I will brag. I had a very talented group of people who had worked in television. Josh Shipley and I had instigated an internship program with the local universities. And so we were recruiting art students. And I'm like, how would you like to work on a theme park in your backyard? And they go, what's a theme park? So training these young people about theme. Not that they didn't know, but
right.
you're designing in a theme park. What is the process? How does it go from ideation all the way to final product? Who's building it? Who's a production designer? Who's a show designer? And creating a menu that made sense to get us to opening. And I think if cameras were filming and you can make a documentary about what we did, it would win an award, because of all the projects I've worked on, not only did we open a park, we opened an overlay on that park for Halloween. We opened a private party in conjunction with FanX. It was intense. It was killer. I mean, I went for a week without sleep with my team, making sure we got to a finish line that was special and good enough to open. And something I don't want to speak for Josh Shipley, but I can speak for myself. Being ex-Imagineers, we wanted it to be something that was good, like competitive, and Ken did too. I'm speaking on behalf of everyone in the team, Logan's team and the makeup department and prosthetics, all these people that put in so much time and effort to really do something unique. And in Utah, I mean, talk about going against the grain. Doing everything a hard way and opening a park of that nature in Utah County, not Salt Lake County, Utah
County.
Anyone from Utah knows and understands Utah County is just a little bit special, a little bit different in, comparing notes to Salt Lake County. Not bad. It's just different. You have a different crowd of people, a lot of university kids and stuff like that, and families. And so, and kudos to the Evermore team. They're still doing it. They're still kicking butt and opening up stuff, and they're still good friends of mine. So support them 100%. I'm very lucky and fortunate to have had that project. And I think the best part of all that, and I've said this in other interviews, is that Ken just cared that it was quality. He was like, just do it. What do you want? We want 8,000 pumpkins. Okay, go buy pumpkins. We're gonna do this. Okay. Oh, we have 6 containers of antiques of stuff you bought in old Europe. Okay, let's decorate. And so it was fun. It was fun as a designer, as a set designer, and a guy who finally got to see and hire talented people who came in with portfolios. Josh and I required that. And then the other thing I have to say is I had buy-offs, creative buy-offs every Friday. My department would show all the creation stuff, all the designs, all the illustrations, and I got Ken a stamp that said approved, and we made it competitive. I wanted everyone to bring to the table their skills. Not everyone's on the same page. Not everyone's an illustrator. Not everyone's a sculptor. Not everyone's a crafts person. Not everyone builds with, wood planks and makes something out of it. But everyone's skills are unique. And when you bring it to a table like that, then you have a great feast of talent. And so Ken was able to stamp everything and approve. And I tried to do it the George Lucas style, because George has a very competitive where all the artists would bring paintings and their drawings. And if you watch any of the interviews with Doug Chung and some of those guys, there's behind them rejected in red, big red stamp, rejected. And if you've been to art school and you've hung your art on walls and you sit down quietly and you have a professor that shreds your stuff in front of a whole classroom of people, getting a green stamp means a lot because it means you've done something good that's good enough to build, and it's good enough to end up in a place like Evermore. So it was fun.
Well, Josh, we really appreciate you coming on the show today. We can't wait to have you back for the Rocketeer.
Oh, please do.
And
make my
good
day.
luck with everything going on. And hopefully next year we'll all be in Shanghai together. So I think that's the plan.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, have a good day. See ya.